Meeting, December 2nd. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. We're trying to get through the warrant here and get the bills paid, so if you'll hold on a moment. Let's finishing up the warrants here, so just in the meantime, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as far as I can see, 5 audio recording devices and 1 video recording device.
Mary, these tickets don't have on it where they went to for the certified mail receipts. There's nothing on them. This is exactly what I brought back from the post office. Oh, but they're not filled in, so you don't know where they went.
I have the return cards in there where it's filled in.
And you can match them up and complete them?
Yep.
That would be good. Thank you.
I didn't recognize your warrant all smashed up.
Did all 8 cards come out? All 8 cards came back.
What's that?
Suzanne put it
But you can fill them in so it's clear which ones which then.
or make copies to attach of the other side, of the other part.
Where it has the number.
Yeah.
Okay.
That came up because I tried to send them by a less expensive way, and then the post office said that I need these 2 each folders. I need to clear all the other cards on them as well.
What's her name? Not the one, not the one.
She's going to be giving a presentation downstairs.
Tonight?
They have to give a presentation.
We're invited to that.
We were invited to come down if we have room, but we couldn't.
Well, it's okay. Yeah. It's just she wanted to see the presentation. I'm sure she has that.
Well, we thank God that we had it in senior because we were letting her have a tour. Well, she thought we had good passion.
Who had more questions? So typical.
All the trustees did that. Morton, all these things, records of the Ashfield
Oh, wow.
in the file cabinet.
Wow.
So
That's
we're
cool.
going to go through all of those and put all these things that are in the mail and putting them in the mail and so I get ready to
Huh. That's interesting.
and one of the interesting things that my signature, it was in, it's just so hard. So, it's going to be really interesting.
Maybe because of how many lines we have. Is that what we get our data to?
Kind of high, what is it?
That's what we get our data. 375.
Looks pretty hot. I guess.
It is.
Like 355, 359.
Keep your throat soothed.
Yeah.
Nancy's trying to determine what
Yeah,
is
good turnout.
$49.99.
It's not like mine.
And no one will explain who ordered it. Right? She was explaining it to me this morning.
Just seems like a lot.
Yeah. I wonder if they got fiber optic in here and connect to that new broadband. They get at least get a cheaper bill. That would be good.
That's the way I am.
Me too. Is there anything else in here that was?
Okay. I'll try to look through.
We drove on.
What kind of name just got out of my car and I thought, oh shit, no, there's a car in the end. You know, it's a challenge parking on the end there. There's a nice place. I didn't park in that space. He was criticizing me for parking in the last space and getting up on the lawn. I said, not in the last space. There's a car over here. I didn't make the parking lot big enough. The last space has to park on the lawn. I said, I know, but I'm not in that space. Okay. Right? Ah, man.
One time, one direction.
Maybe.
Oh, no, it's sewer. Because they pay for the.
It's kind of the way it always sounds.
Wow. What was that other one?
All the sewer stuff. There we go. Bills are paid. Next on the agenda was the minutes. We just got those today. I don't know if you go over them or do we want
Let me
to
get
set
it.
those aside?
Wouldn't hurt too, I suppose. But
Why don't we see how,
Usually-
why don't we see how the end of the evening?
sounds good.
That'd be fine.
I've actually read through them. Quickly.
We can take them. Okay. Sherry, how are you?
Good.
Good. Glad you could come in. Bronson Avenue, boundary line agreement. Ron, where do
Give me an update.
Uh,
As you recall, several months ago, you guys
had me represent the select board to a site visit. If you could pass these two down to Mary. Lynn, that'd be great. I did as requested. I went out there and met with John actually and Dan Warner and looked on the ground. We each individually had the opportunity to do that too. And I asked Don if he couldn't, Dan if he couldn't put some flagging on this side also, on the east side.
East side is
There's some bushes there, so you have to look for that flagging, but if you want,
I went down.
it's okay.
I went by anyway.
And basically, from what I understand, talking with Dan, what this represents is this line on the west side of the inhabitants of the town of Ashfield, or on Sherry's east side, is a split between the bushes and the bumpers, you know, the concrete bumpers. At one point we were talking, should be all the way over to the concrete bumper, should it be here? And he recommended creating a split, and of course I couldn't say one way or the other without coming to this board, you know, I'm just myself. It seems like a reasonable approach. I will tell you that he also shared with me the deeds on both sides. There's a lot of ambiguity. The deeds also call for bounds, monuments at the ends of this particular line, and neither of those monuments are in. So that's another cause for a boundary line agreement. And basically that's what this represents. I as a survey engineer, think it's a reasonable approach, my personal opinion. And
There's not a single bound to be found.
well, there are further down the road down here, but when you get down to this area, there's that ambiguity, and the use dictates differently too. If you look at it, you see where those bushes are and what Sherry's been maintaining and so on and so forth. So the way this would proceed, if we decide to proceed, is a warrant has to be drafted, and it will probably reference this plan, you know, as shown on the plan entitled, dated by Dan Warner, and that's pretty simple, I think. You know, that's something council would do.
So does this actually, this changes the deed, or it's just an agreement that?
It's an agreement as to where the line should be. I can tell you on this plan that the record distance, if you look above Sherry's house there, the record distance by deed is 79 feet, and this location of this line would make it actually 84 feet. And on the other side, the record is 100 more or less. This is a remnant lot. It's the last lot to be conveyed out of all these lots. And that is 100 more or less. And usually when you see 79 more or less, the exactness of that number, the 9, means half a foot, more or less. If you see 100 more or less, that could be 110, it could be 90 feet, because of the significant figures on the plan. So that's his recommendation, and I support it. I think it's a reasonable approach, personally.
So if the 79 becomes 84, the piece in the middle, inhabitants,
Yep.
town of Ashfield, what is that length?
That's
then?
93.16. It's above the line.
After the fact?
After the fact, yeah.
Because the next lot to the east, there is a monument there.
Yeah, right there.
This signifies the,
That-
actually a
yes.
boundary marker there.
Right. Well, I thought I remembered him saying they had found that one.
Sherry, what do you think?
I'm good with this.
Does it serve the purpose that you were looking for?
Yes, it does.
And given it's only 5 feet, what's in that 5 feet that makes it good for you?
Everything that I've been taking care of all these years that I actually thought was fine originally.
The plantings.
Well, one thing, if we did go ahead and do this, it would make, this shouldn't come up again, because now we have more modern and more accurate measurements.
That's right.
So no more, there won't be any more of this plus or minus business.
Well, plus I would recommend that we make a requirement that a semi-permanent monument be set at either end of that line and reflected on the plan, so that it becomes a matter of record. That's like an iron rebar, or if they want a stone bound, or something to monument it better.
Both ends of house number 8 on
Yeah,
the drawing?
yeah, it's,
Sort of to the right and left as we look at this picture?
yeah. Oh, no,
No,
just
no.
right, but both ends of that line on the right.
Because I thought there already was one, wasn't there?
No,
Oh, you
I'm,
mean the end going toward the brook?
yeah,
The
Okay.
east side of Sherry is the west side of the Ashfield lot.
Yep, right here and right here, or
It'd be
wherever.
hard to put it in the center of the brook, but.
it would.
Back a little bit better, don't you think?
What he would probably do is set it at the top of that bank somewhere.
Be a lot drier. To be honest, there probably should be a stone monument on that corner to build everything else off of too. I
Yeah,
think.
probably. Yeah. We're making it
I would think that would be helpful to put one in on that left side. That's what you're talking about, right here
Yeah.
on that corner. Because there's one over here.
So,
They
yeah,
said there was one here.
you need to. I gotta believe that line is a little bit imaginary. It builds off of that old stone wall
Yeah.
on the north side, right?
Yeah.
Any other questions? What do you?
So if you
A
would,
5-foot deviation of something that we didn't figure we owned before, I don't think is a.
I was only concerned that since it says the inhabitants of the town of Ashfield, would it be best to have the whole thing be voted at an annual town meeting and everybody's aware of
it
what
has to
happened?
be.
Oh, it does?
It's got to go to an article.
The annual town meeting,
It could be a special.
It could be special.
as opposed to annual when we know more attendance. So
Do you have a timeline in specifically that you'd like to get this tended to, or?
No, not really.
I always like you're saying, put things on annual, it's fine.
I
If there's no.
personally think it's fine in an interim, because it's just like any other town business. You know, if she can get it done, we can get it behind us. It's not.
But we don't even have a town meeting scheduled yet, so
Right.
Not yet.
the earliest we'd probably be looking at would be February at this point.
Okay,
So
that's fine.
if we wait until annual, that's only 3 more months to get us to May, so.
Well, we could get the agreement drafted by then for sure.
Right, give us plenty of time.
Give us some time to do that.
So if you would like, I could, I'll make a motion, but I could bring this a little bit further for the board. In other words, what has to be communicated is the fact that we want these 3 monuments set as part of the conditions, and that we're going to need the article drafted. And,
And an agreement.
well, the agreement will probably reference this plan.
Sure,
Yeah.
but it needs to be done.
It needs to be in words too. So if that sounds reasonable, I'll make a motion that I further this for the board and bring it back.
Take it.
This says draft.
Take it to town council.
Take it to town council and get you the final article and get you the final plan, which will say monument set, monument set, monument set in those places. But I'll run it by town council first to make sure that she doesn't have any issues with it, because it'd be a shame to set those monuments if she has an issue also. So I'll make that motion, if that's clear enough.
Good enough for me.
Second?
Any other discussion? Anything else to come out of the closet on this? I don't think so. I mean, it looks pretty straightforward. I thought it might be a lot more difficult to figure out. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Unanimous. Reservoir Brook.
you know,
All this time we've been calling it by
polite
exactly the wrong name.
the wrong reservoir.
On the other side of it.
Exactly. Exactly. We can call it the reservoir. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out. Doug Field,
Yeah,
what's cooking?
well, at our last quarterly meeting of the Massachusetts Emergency Management, they asked all of us if we had a preparedness plan in case of emergency. And most of us sat there and saw the, get up, mostly up here.
I'm sorry, this is the quarterly meeting
Oh,
of,
we have, the Massachusetts Emergency Management Association has the quarterly meeting for all emergency managers in Western Massachusetts every quarter. And they have other people come in, the Red Cross comes in, Salvation Army, like, come in and gives us an update on what's going on. And then they ask us a few questions, the management people, and they asked us if we had any preparedness plan. And most of us didn't have it. We had it all mainly up in our heads. So what we've done, what I've done, is made a vote for Ashfield. It's not any policies and procedures, it's not a job description. It's just a plan in case of emergency. Well, more, and I got one for you too. I got one of these for you too. So that the town can, we'll know newer people coming on or comes into the fire station when we're having, they can look at these if they want to. It's open to the public. And so that they know what's going on. And we never had one before. Also, I made up, it's near a emergency operating.
you say you never had one.
We never
You
had
had it
this.
written down.
We never had it written down. Bill had it same way I did. I mean, as you all know, I've been in emergency services now 45 years. And we just had it. We never put it in black and white. So this is in black and white. If something has to be changed, it can be changed. It's not like we're, still talking to it. That's it. I do have a manual that I made up, it's right by Chris, that will be at the fire station for anybody that wants to grab it, including this will be there also.
Could we put a copy of this on your emergency manager website?
We can. We could.
People might be interested.
It's what we always do, really, in emergency. Like just for quick things, always has to be a scribe, emergency operating center. Thanks to Paula and Mary that didn't do the things you've been doing it every time we're around. And then it's just the emergency manager is in control of emergency here in Ashfield. But we have to keep in contact with the select board at all times. So, and then it's where things are supposed to be. If we have an emergency, where do we stage things? Like anything to do with a fire or police, emergency manager will stage everything behind the Congregational Church. If it's anything to do with the highway, it'll be staged at the highway branch. So things like that, so everybody will know what's going on with that. Don't you have any questions on that? Or?
I don't think it needs to be in here, but one of the things we discovered at one of the meetings we've been attending with FERCog and AG's office was that for the select board to declare the state of emergency, we basically need to post and put up an emergency meeting to document we declared the state of emergency. We
We
haven't done
have
that in the
a-
past, but
We do have a,
they said just post it on the door and do it, and then it's an emergency, so you can't hold the meeting in 5 minutes.
we do have
There's
this,
also-
that would be going at the fire station. What is in here is all emergency numbers, so somebody doesn't have to go to the telephone. It's got the dispatch center, state police, ambulance, my name, Bob, Taylor's name, fire chief, police, animal control, town office, things like that in here. And then it's got the business contacts the town has, maybe, so we can grab it right here. If I'm not mistaken, about 5 months ago, the animal control officer has to be involved in all emergency design.
I remember that being brought to us.
Warren gave me a list of all the animal rescue contacts that he has, which is in here. And the Sanderson Academy Safety Disaster Response Team that the Sanderson has set up for all their telephone numbers. It's all the Sanderson people and the Plainfield people and ourselves are in here. The plan that you got there, and if there's something you want to change, like something like good, I can change it. Also, the emergency declaration, the copy here, so that we can take it out, copy it, and do like, maybe we have to do it like you said, public, I'm not sure. It's in there, the copy of that here. The emergency zones, flow chart on how things are supposed to go, select board, and emergency manager, select board, board of health, and then it drops down to fire, police chief, highway, fire, EMS, and animal control. So it's there. The emergency management people throughout the state, their telephone numbers if we need them. And how to get a hold of the Blackboard Connect. Yeah, Mary, myself, and Ann Dunn, and Lynn Taylor has the code to get into this, into the Blackboard software so they can put it out to the town if they have to. Kyle Taylor will also have it, but right now he don't. And there's something that I put up, and I heard that before. During the ice storm, all I did is we ran into this. And that is a evacuation release form. And what it says, and I'll read it so the town can see it. The evacuation release form. I, so-and-so, have been informed of a serious situation in Ashfield. The Ashfield emergency manager requests that my family and I leave my home and go to a shelter in Sanderson Academy until the situation improves. It's yes and no. I cannot, the select board, cannot make anybody leave their home. But if we take this and they just mark it yes, fine. If they mark it no, fine. At least we'll know that we can act as supposed to.
Anything else? You need documentation.
That's what, I mean, I did have a person after the Hurricane Irene told me that no one came to their house. And I'm very sure, like Paul knows it, we went to about everybody's house, but they said they did. This would kind of cover us a little bit, I think. My own feeling anyhow. So, that's what I got. And this will be at the fire station. Anybody wants to see it, fine, it's no problem.
So I'm taking it, this here, you're getting to all the people that are on that flow chart.
Yes. They will have it.
So it's not just in the book, it's,
No, they will have it all.
So you have the contents of that book is on your computer, so if something happened to the book, you can recreate that manual.
It's on my computer at home, and I will bring everything, I will transfer everything to the computer up here. So it will be up here. I think I have already, haven't I?
Well, you've sent it to me, so we do have it at town hall.
So, I mean, it's all on the computer, so that if something should happen, we can, or I have two others.
There's just a lot of work, and you'd hate to start from scratch.
Doug, I have a quick question for you. Several months ago, we were talking about the multi-hazard mitigation plan, and you filed that. Have they accepted it formally yet?
Far as we know, they have not accepted it. They haven't sent nothing back to us, so put it that way. It's at federal government. Massachusetts accepted, yes. It's at the federal government.
So Massachusetts has.
Massachusetts accepted it, it's at the federal government. So far as getting grants or applying for grants, we got no problem.
Okay, that was my concern.
We can do
You
that.
got some documentation or communication back
She
from them,
does
they
in
accepted
I
that?
gotta get it from FERC.
Can you get that to us?
I will get that, yeah.
Because last minute, it's kind of hard to get all that stuff pulled together if we're going after that grant again.
According to her, she said that they had it back from Massachusetts, so I will make sure I'll check that this week.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Is there anything else that might be different depending whether we were talking about Hurricane Irene or the ice storm of '08 or a heavy snowstorm in the middle of January? Are there any other additional contacts that vary depending on the storm or the emergency?
Well, I was trying to figure out if I missed anybody here. I don't think I did. I got our emergency dispatch center, Massachusetts State Police, Highland Ambulance, our fire station, emergency manager myself, Carl Taylor's assistant, fire chief, no police chief, the police station and dispatch center, that's what Chief Drowning wants. The highway garage, Tommy's home phone number, cell phone number, animal control officer Warren, town office and town administrator Mary, assistant clerk Lynn, Board of Health, Duncan, Conservation Commission, Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, Sanderson Academy, and Mohawk School. Now, if there is some more, that's no problem, I can put it on. But I think that may be all of it. We meet here in Ashfield.
Seems like most of those folks have.
We do have a brand new program.
And there's nobody different for FEMA and MEMA depending on the storm?
No,
It's the same.
what we have to do is go through MEMA fully. We don't have nothing to do with FEMA until it gets over that threshold of amount of money before it kicks into them.
Okay.
And I think it's $2 million for Franklin County before it kicks into FEMA.
Since we're talking about the emergency, declaring an emergency and so forth, is it a legitimate practice to, let's say, a twister came through or something, to say that the emergency is north of 116? Or, instead of putting the whole town into that type of
You have to put the whole town into the state of emergency, but then you can break it down to where the problem is. Like all these tornadoes that took the whole cities up there, they have to put that city or town, the whole town, in a state of emergency to get the money from Massachusetts or the feds. It can't just be half of the town, it's got to be the whole town in a state of emergency.
So part of it is to actually manage the emergency, and the other is to manage the finances afterwards.
Right. But it has, because if we feel, okay, it's just South Ashfield, and then it goes into Conway and beyond, we say, well, it's just a little bit of South Ashfield, that's no big deal. Well, if ours is 200,000 or 300,000, somebody else is 200,000 or 300,000, to get that up to that threshold, so we can get money from the federal government. That's why we do that.
Oh, the 2 million can be more than one municipality.
I think the threshold is 2 million something for the whole thinking county. And then for the state, it's 6 million for the state to come up with a threshold to get money from the federal government. That's what it's all about. And to declare a state of emergency, we can do that at every storm if you really wanted to. I mean, it's not practical to do it, but I mean, you could. It's just that you don't. I mean, we've had it at the ice storm, we had it at Irene. We didn't have it at Sandy because we didn't have that much to worry about. We were there. We managed
Well, some of these storms, we know that we manage them and then the governor decides that it had to be an emergency.
Yeah. The governor has the final say on whether he's going to authorize it.
So do we need to take some action on this, Doug, or?
No, I didn't think you had to. They didn't say that. They just wanted us to be able to present it to you people so you had it. And so you know what's going on anyhow in the state of emergency. Poor Paulette was there with us for the last two, pretty good clip. So, you know, it's just something that, it's in black and white now, instead of just being sitting, well, we know what it is.
Well, thanks for doing that. And if you could get some documentation that was, because we were working on that in the summer to get it done for you.
I'll go down there because trying to call FERCog, you get recordings all the time down there. It's easier to go.
You gotta go to town sometime anyway.
Me?
Yeah, don't you gotta go.
It's not a big deal.
All right, thanks then.
Have you seen that binder, that book? A lot of work in there.
Yeah, but it'll be at the fire station. Well, yeah, I think I may have a couple of things I got to put it. And I will get a copy up so Mary can have one up here. So it'll be one up here too.
Thank you.
Yep.
Warren Kirkpatrick, you're the next victim. Come on up so we can see that uniform.
Right here with the X.
Yeah, right. The chalk mark.
Yes.
Let's see, who was the last one? Were you the last one to have the officer control? You were. So that's what you came in to talk about, was the manual.
Right, the standard operating procedures, which Ashfield's never had before. And I graduated from the State Academy, and in May 23rd of this year. And while it's fresh in my mind, I put this together for actually two reasons. One, for me to follow, and somebody after me. Because when I took over this job, there was nothing. There was a little pamphlet from the county, that was it. So I felt that it was time that we get up to 2013 and have something that actually is written that people can refer to.
How many years have you been?
I'm sorry?
How many years have you been in animal control?
I'm going on 32. Be 31, I'm 31 right now. And started out as dog officer, and then it went to animal control because we're handling all animals, not just dogs. And that's what the state finally passed, and they said no more dog officer. No such thing as a dog officer anymore in Massachusetts. We're all animal control now. And we all have to be state certified. So we go through the police academy in West Boylston, Mass. And we have to graduate, obviously pass the course, and then we're state officers. So I'm now a state officer, but I work for Ashfield. I take care of Ashfield, nothing's gonna change. I didn't want people to think something's gonna change. I'm taking care of Ashfield.
And you got a grant or a scholarship to pay your tuition, right? You applied, you got...
Yes, the town was gonna have to foot the bill to send me down there because it's state law. But they never put any money behind it. so the towns had to pick up the tab. And in the process of applying to the school, I heard there was a process to put in for a scholarship. So I did, I put in for a scholarship, had to write an essay and application and what have you. And to my surprise, I got 50% of it. They wanted to pass out 6 instead of 3. So I got 50% of the cost. So I saved Ashfield that by getting a scholarship.
Thanks for all your service. I mean, I didn't realize it had been so many years.
Yeah.
So on your standard operating procedures, I mean, you had 30 years plus experience, plus they had a blueprint to build off of.
Yeah, there was a blueprint, and also the governor back in October of 12 had passed many new laws that we weren't even aware of, but they were pushed through the State House. And all of a sudden we got a notice that said, here they are. Ashfield was in violation on a few of them, but thankfully, because I keep up to it, I very quickly picked them up, smoothed it out, so Ashfield was 100% in compliance with the new laws. And the only thing left was to get myself through the academy at 68 years old. So when I beat them, I got through it. I don't know how, but anyway, I was the 3rd oldest in there, and we made it.
So we haven't really taken action. We need to take action on that manual.
Yeah, I would say that the thing that we would have to do is get it entered in as a town record or
Policy.
a town with a policy. Okay. So that, you know, if we're questioned on it, we can say, we've gone over, the town voted on it, the select board voted on it. It's record, or whatever you want to call it. It's in the, you know, policy or statutes of the town, whatever. The town has a right to pass these laws time to time. They could have passed it without any of that, but it makes it better if we have something in writing.
Well, make it, it certainly will give the next animal control officer.
I'm sorry?
It'll give the next animal control
Right,
officer
right, yeah.
a big foot up that you didn't have.
That's right, that's right. Now, things will change, but I'm hoping, you know, the original one is gonna be good for a while. And then, as laws change, things change, you know, we'll keep it updated, you know.
I found it very interesting, and there was a lot more to it than I would expect most people would normally think of, are involved in being the animal control officer. And it's no surprise that the final version I would like to see up on the town's website for the animal control officer, because I think it would be good. People do go and read these things, and that's a great way to get the information of what's involved.
As far as I know, it's all public record, so.
I think it's
We
great.
can put it anywhere we want it, really. It's, you know, anybody can come in and read it, whatever.
Did you have any questions on any parts of it that you can remember, or were you?
No, I think the only part I recall is when it first started, there was an abbreviation for Animal Control Officer, ACO. It took me a minute to go, oh, Animal Control Officer. After that, I was okay.
Ron, did you have anything?
No, I would just suggest, Warren, that you coordinate with Mary to get the Word document into the town possession. And I thank you for what you did. It looks like a substantial effort, and I really appreciate it.
It was a lot, because I'm not a poet, I'm not a writer. And, you know, I was writing as fast as I could, so I didn't lose my train of thought.
Were we going to discuss this at this point in time too? This thing?
Yeah.
Or was that?
No, it's new waiver form.
Oh, okay.
So, but should we, how about a motion to
Accept.
accept Warren's draft of the animal control officer
So moved.
Warrants draft with some little bits of changes that were,
There was some
Just typing
some
up.
grammar,
Just a few
but
typos.
that I think we've just about gotten worked out.
And as Paulette said, if the first time animal control officers mentioned, you say hereinafter ACO or something like that.
But besides that, I mean, yeah, a few typos make it
Typo.
country.
So moved, yes.
So moved. All right, yes, second. Any other discussion on the procedure policy? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Good work. You got
Thank
that
you.
done.
Okay, thank you.
Now, this looks like it's an addition to that.
So right ahead.
Would this go in the back under forms, or
What is it?
That's
it's
the way
the
it
statement of
is.
surrender?
No, probably that would be in my other files with like dog bite reports, incident reports, you know.
and Warren, this is a new form that's coming
the-
This is a new form that you're going to start using?
Yes. This, there were several new ones. The ones that I did have were town form. You just said Ashfield on it or something, you know, Ashfield Animal Control, something like that. Well, it's no longer, it's still Ashfield, but it's now Commonwealth of Mass. And so consequently, we have to kind of stay within, we can't go back and forth between town and state, you know. So it's
Under what circumstances are people surrendering their animal?
well, basically, I had a form, something like this for many years. It was like a four-liner, you know, and there was a lot of loopholes in it that someone could have questioned. But I've had some people, you know, have certain animals that they don't have relatives, elderly people, whatever, they have no relatives. There's some extenuating circumstance, they don't know what to do with these animals. And in order for me to try to find, I had a lady with 2 canaries, okay? You know, the situation is, it's nice to be a good guy and help and say, gee, we found the horn. Then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, the lady said, I want my canaries back. Okay? We have this form.
So
We
these
don't
are,
want to be put in that spot.
so these are used for healthy and possibly sick animals, so it could be for any situation.
Well, this is any surrender, I believe it says any surrender.
It says dog or cat, too. Or other, okay.
They can go.
I was afraid you were going to say you've got 2 canaries and you found 1 cat.
And one cat.
So this releases the animal to you to then find it a home if possible.
You're right, it's either to find a home or I have had a situation in town a few years back. We had a real vicious dog, and the people were afraid of it, and they said, "Can you please come get it? It's going to get the kid across the street." Blah blah blah. I had to fill out a form, you know, but there was a lot of slack, and I don't want to be in front of an attorney, you know, and so we tried to draw up something that, you know.
So this again is following a blueprint that they had at
This
school
is
you went
just
to,
about, the theory is there, but the wording is not the same as what mine was, because mine was so simple.
but
It was something better than nothing.
did the state,
Yeah, this is basically, I believe Ann said something about getting that off of the computer.
Right. She checked with the state veterinarian's office. So the form's often drafted by the town, but must be approved by the select board and town council. So if you accept it, we'd run it by town council and it would be all set, unless they have to come back.
Yeah, no, as long as the select board goes along with the form, then, you know, we can go and use that form. And
so the only time the owner,
The what?
the only time the owner would be obligated to pay is if the animal was surrendered after biting someone.
The owner.
It says, it is expressly agreed that for any obligation to the account of deficit. I further understand that if the animal has bitten anyone, it will be quarantined for 10 days at my own expense. But that's the only
If we have
expense
to
the
see-
owner
Right.
has.
Yeah, if we have to seize the animal, they have to pay. I mean, that's an extenuating. And if we have a real serious person get chewed up, a real serious thing, and the people are not very reliable and they don't want to keep the dog for the 10 days, they say, get rid of it, I don't want the dog. Then they would pay for us to keep it for the 10 for the rabies issue. And then at that point, you know, we'd probably get one of these signed, euthanized.
But that would be at whose expense? It doesn't say that that would be at,
That'd be part of their pay. They'd have to pay.
but if somebody surrendered their animal that hadn't bitten anyone, and it needed
Oh,
to be,
hadn't
and it needed to be disposed of, that would end up being at the town's expense? I don't want it to turn into being that kind of service, and I don't think you do either.
no, I haven't encountered that yet, Tom. Okay, usually we say to the people, you know, they should be paid. I don't think I've ever turned a bill into the town of Ashfield 31 years for euthanization. We've always taken it, it's always been paid. Again, that form is better than nothing. There's going to be extenuating circumstances on different, you know, we've had cattle go wild and stuff like that, and, you know, and before we, you know, try to round them up, we want to make sure we can, you know, get them out of
Get near 'em.
trouble. It's like, you know, but I think that says that the officers and everything are covered. So I think there's a line on there that says that.
So if we approved it as is pending review by town council, if there was something missing, I would expect she would come back with some suggestions of language to add.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? Anything? All those in favor say aye. 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 Unanimous. You got a lot of work done tonight.
Well, we do a lot of work.
Go deer hunt, did you go deer hunt today?
Pardon?
Did anybody get any deer out today?
I don't know, I'm just waiting for the phone to ring because usually about the first 4 days of deer season, I'm picking up bodies, so. This is almost every 4 or 5 days, first time deer. They run them out, scare them, they run out, cars them.
Yeah.
They're running everywhere. They're not shot,
Yeah.
they get mowed down.
I was
It's
thinking.
sad, but I don't know anybody else wants to do it.
Right.
But
I was thinking the other day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, deer hunting, productivity in this part of the world goes down dramatically for all of those reasons. Just try to go get a plumber or an electrician or a carpenter right now.
right, at least until they get one.
Until they get one. Anything else, Warren?
No, listen, I'm here for you.
Tom,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
there is one thing about Warren, is that if we happen to have to open up the shelter up to Sanderson, I have to work with Warren if there's a dog, an animal. We cannot put an animal that's in Sanderson Academy. So then we would have to work, Warren and I would have to work with a homeowner to figure out everything. Because they just can't. The school had a serious problem at one of the episodes and somebody got hurt, and so the superintendent said, no animals in the shelter.
But this summer, when you put in that emergency plan, it had to include something for the animals. So that's part of the plan, right?
Yep, that's part of the plan. It's in the paper.
I've got, in the SOP, there is numbers of people that will house animals, take animals, pick animals up, unless somebody's got 40 head of steer or something, that's what they're really, you know. But Doug and I said we'd work it.
Good. Right. Well, thank you, Warren.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Christopher Gray, 2 weeks, you just couldn't stay away.
I don't even have all the information.
So you've got more information than you had 2 weeks ago.
I do. So this is just more information about the use of the town hall for connecting to the MBI, 123 network for housing hardware and for mounting antennas, for the possibility of serving internet service. You had requested I do two things at the last meeting. The first was that I meet with the technology committee. The meeting ended up getting canceled, so I have not done it. But it's currently being rescheduled. And a question about that was, how would the select board like their opinion to be delivered? Do they need to come to a meeting, or
I would like it delivered by them.
at a select board
Yeah,
meeting?
somebody could represent them. I mean, I don't think it would be necessary for the whole board, but.
Okay. The other thing we requested was to seek more information about the process for how to actually go about leasing such a combination of space, and to seek other examples. The three examples that I've come up with so far, one is the DCR has allowed the use of fire towers for wireless ISP antennas. The town of Wendell leases municipal space for wireless ISP antennas, and the town of New Salem also does that.
What kind of municipal space?
I don't know yet, and just due to the past couple weeks and the scarcity of the people working at these locations, it's been hard to get the information. But those are the three examples I found so far. And then I was advised by a Massachusetts wireless ISP operator who doesn't do any of these three, but pointed me toward a couple of them. And his information is confirmed by FERCog, a FERCog rep, that the sort of thing we're talking about would be governed by the Massachusetts general laws. That's what NGL stands for. The Chapter 30B, which covers all procurement, coming in and going out. I have not completed reading all of Chapter 30B. There's also a Chapter 30B manual, which gives more useful descriptions and examples and things. I haven't completed reading that either. But those two things they define the minimums that the town needs to adhere to. And the town can have bylaws that have more stringent rules. And I don't know whether the town does or does not have more stringent rules than Chapter 30. But the gist of what I was finding was anything less, 3 years or less, does not require a town vote. Anything 3 years or more requires a town vote. The law currently, as is written, if you check it online, it says less than $5,000 total contract. Does not require competing bids. In August, that was actually raised to $10,000. So a $10,000 or less total contract does not require competing bids, although the town could request it. Anything below that amount requires what they call sound business practices, where they request that you at least seek to find out what the reasonable value is so that the town is getting an appropriate price. Something I found in parallel to this in going through the 30B is property leases of any value require that they must declare that it's available and what the restrictions are, whatever that space is. I don't know exactly yet how the declaration has to be made or what the time frame is after the declaration has been made before the lease can be entered. But I'm seeking that information, and proposals only need to be solicited if the value is over $25,000, total lease value or total property value. And there's another note, and this doesn't necessarily apply to me, but it can be for your information. Real property to promote public purposes can be leased for less than a fair market value if it was deemed appropriate and desirable for the town. So that's the information I have regarding the two things that you asked me to do. And there are two things I wanted to clarify. One was, I got the impression that I was saying that line of sight is required to provide service. It is not required. to provide service, but line of sight is significantly improves all of the parameters. It allows you to provide more reliable service with less work, faster service, serve more people. So when we were discussing how there's line of sight to many locations from the town hall structure, although one could do a non-line of sight service, it would an only non-line of sight service, you wouldn't be able to provide improved service to people in the local area. So if you have a line of sight service in the immediate area of town, and then you're offering non-line of sight services or non-line of sight off of repeaters, you can offer improved services for those in town who already have DSL available to them, and improved services outside of town where people have none. The other clarification I wanted to make was regarding the exclusive use of unlicensed bands here at the town hall.
Oh, yes.
And that is, the FCC has no requirement to allow universal location of unlicensed hardware. The way the Part 15 FCC rules are worded, it says, this is paraphrasing, one does not have any vested or recognizable right simply by virtue of prior registration or certification of the equipment. Meaning if you have a piece of equipment running on unlicensed frequency, a new piece of equipment can be made and interfere with that or render it completely useless. And you have to accept that because you're operating on an unlicensed frequency. There is an exception about the universal location of unlicensed hardware, and that is at people's residences or leased, like a rented space or a leased space, where it is not allowed, a town cannot prevent somebody from putting up, say, a satellite dish, a TV antenna, wireless internet antenna that is less than 1 meter across, or in diameter or in height. So that's the only time where you cannot, it's the only time where everybody is allowed to use any hardware within those, within that realm. So in the situation where one would be leasing space on a building to resell or redistribute service, that exception does not apply. So the owner of that structure has the right to allow one person or one entity to use a certain type of hardware only, or hardware that encompasses a certain frequency, and deny others from using hardware within that range. And I would recommend, if we do enter some sort of lease agreement, and we're willing to go down the exclusive use of unlicensed bands road, there'd be some provisions so that in the event that I don't fulfill some need, the town can then redistribute that to somebody else. But I would still seek the exclusive use because there's a significant risk of somebody else being able to lease space, putting up similar hardware on similar frequencies, and having them interfere in a way where it just disables service entirely. And
That's how far you've gotten so far.
And that's what I have to share, and I'd like to know what you'd like me to do next.
I just have a question.
Oh, sure.
If all of the antennas that you were thinking about doing were installed, have you already calculated if everybody that was in, let's say, the line of sight were to sign on, how many households you might be reaching
I
for
have
service?
I have not. I don't have good information about exactly how many houses have line of sight to the tower. The easiest thing to do would, of course, go up there and look. I have not taken that opportunity. I've been up there, but I haven't been up there with this in mind.
The line of sight would change depending on leaves on the trees and so forth.
Yeah, so you have to consider worst case scenario and work from there. And if somebody were to say, this is hypothetical, purchase service in the wintertime, you would need to make it very clear to them that as the leaves fill in, service may degrade or be not even usable, and then have some sort of agreement about refunding money or exiting the contract or whatever.
I was just wondering, because there's an expense involved here, and obviously you wouldn't want to do all of this for one or two households.
Certainly not for one or two. I could feasibly, the effort scales pretty well. There's not, as far as I can tell, there's not a lot of economy of scale. So if I go through the effort and I'm able to serve 10 people, that's 10 people who are able to be served, but it's a very small amount of my time. And there are some economies of scale with having a single distribution location, but all of the customers also need hardware at their place and things of that nature. So 5 customers is something I can do on my way through town, you know. You start getting up into the 50, 100, 200 range, it becomes a real part-time job, and at some point you end up needing other people to help you. But
because it's all wireless.
yeah,
You were made a note about if it needed to be more than 3 years or more
yes.
on a vote and so forth. For the investment you'd be making, if we didn't move forward on this, you would want it to go for longer than 3 years.
The interval for a contract with MBI 123 network is 3 years. So I would want the contracts really to coincide with the option for extending the contract. And with the grants that are coming through the state right now and their desires to increase those grants, it seems realistic that something might happen soon. And in the event where a fiber network is built out, I would rather not be tied into a contract where I'm stuck paying for space when I can't use it. And I don't know exactly how that will happen.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, what I need to hear is what the tech committee's recommendation is,
Okay.
what their position is on it.
Yep. And
Some of this really is very close to Greek to me, but
okay.
we've got 5 people on that. I believe there's 5 people on that committee that
And
should be able to sort it out.
they're working to make sure there's a meeting where they can all be available, which is
That's great.
the process right now.
I have to just get it straight in my head. We're not going out securing a town service. You're a private individual looking just to lease some space from us. That's in my mind what this is as simple as. You could be a doctor looking to use a steeple for broadcasting something. We're not responsible for your maintenance contracts. We're not responsible. This is just an individual coming to the town to lease some space.
Correct.
What's in my mind is what happens when the next person comes for the same request. Are we at liberty to say, what do we have to do under 30B? This is maybe a town council question, to say there's no more capacity, or to say you're welcome to see what there is. But it's just really a lease question. I mean, I don't want to jump into your business model. I don't want to be responsible for your business model. If there's any failures or successes, that's all on your shoulders as an individual.
Yeah.
In other cases, the town does go out for these services to several individuals to provide these services, but we're not doing that. We're just leasing space in this scenario.
Yeah, and I would end up, there would be a business entity created so that the appropriate insurance and liabilities and things.
Those are big issues.
But that's, I would be simply leasing space. And as far as the space goes and the next person who comes along, if I lease space and am granted exclusive use of unlicensed bands, but don't include 24 gigahertz, and somebody else comes along and wants to, if what I'm reading about the declaration of the space being available is, if I'm understanding it correctly, they would have to come and say, I would really like to do this, and then you would have to determine whether there was space available and it was appropriate, and if so, declare it available, and then see if they would be able to lease it at that point. It is my understanding that if you say there is space available in the steeple and it's a fixed space, and then somebody leases that fixed space, somebody else can't come along and lease more of the space, or perhaps the other space is not declared as leasable.
Before we get all tangled up in that, you did note that there's an exception for telecommunications.
There's an exception for consumers.
For
So,
what?
Consumers. So with the intent of increasing competition and things of that nature. So a town cannot prevent a consumer from putting up any number of antennas. So that a consumer can choose to do satellite or can choose to have an antenna on their roof for TV purposes and things.
Well, that's the next piece of information I need.
Okay.
You're more in tune with this than
I think it'd be good, the technology committee,
Okay.
1, 2, how many they want to have come and talk about it.
after they've deliberated it.
But do we, I guess, I'm interested in what the tech, I'm interested in your idea. I'm interested in what the tech committee has to say, but does that make us complicit with it? If a town committee then kind of endorses it? Let's say that the system fails. Chris is a smart guy, but say it fails. I don't want to get into his situation there and then have the town blame the select board or the town for a failed system. You know what I'm saying? So it's good to hear what they have to say, I guess.
I'd like to hear pros and cons,
Yeah.
whichever information they might have to add to it, or recommendations, or concerns, or from that technical aspect.
Yeah. And then anything has the opportunity to fail in this field, as little as I know about it, just because the technology changes so fast. You may get a lot of equipment up there that's obsolete in 3 years. That's why the contract only needs to go that way. Okay. No, thanks for coming in and keeping us up to date, but
Thank you for your time. See you
Get
hopefully in 2 weeks.
well, when the technology committee gets shaped up,
All right.
2 weeks is gonna get us just before Christmas.
If not, next time, or the time after that.
Thank
We'll
you.
be here.
Thanks.
All right. Old business, Ron, you're up. Ashfield Lake Dam inspection.
Okay. I handed this out in September, and I've just provided the first 2 pages
Great.
for your recollection. And I draw your attention to the last, flip it over, to the very last one. Oh, I'm sorry. We're still working on the relating to Smith Branch Road. And I'm in touch with MJ on that over at the Franklin County Regional Housing and Development Authority. Looks like systems a go for this grant. Looks like it's good. Keep my fingers crossed, but we don't have official notice, but we have email notice and other things, and but I wouldn't go to press with it necessarily at this point in time. But that $356,000 just need a few T's crossed and I's dotted. This last
And
one,
that 356 can be used in conjunction with the FEMA money.
correct, correct. The FEMA money is more for resurfacing the existing gravel road, and this is for reconstruction of everything that's fallen into the brook, basically, the retention wall. The last paragraph is dam, levee, and coastal infrastructure repair program funding, grant offered through Mass Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. We had gone out and met with Italian Bond, and this last year was the first year, actually this year was the first year that this funding announcement was made, and this year's monies available is $17 million. And I was very interested in trying to get all of Ashfield Lake issues. If you recall, the inspection report has dropped down to a fair assessment from acceptable to fair, I believe. And we have several issues up there with the dike, with the easement, with the spillway, with other things. And the reason we couldn't go after this this grant was because the time bond said that the state likes shovel-ready projects. That means they've gone through the design and permitting process, not ones that you're dreaming of doing something. They want to know that the town is committed to it. And this will come up again in September. So,
The application.
the application. Now I want to pass this out. This is their proposal to give us a shovel-ready design project.
Much thicker.
Yeah. Now, this has nothing to do with the retention wall. If you can look at this paragraph, the second paragraph on the first page, it says, during our August 16th, 2013 site visit, we discussed the possibility of the town applying for funding from the Mass EEA Dams and Seawall Repair and Removal Fund to undertake construction of repairs of the dam. We understand that the shovel-ready projects are more favored by the program than projects requiring investigation and design. As such, this proposal has been developed to advance the project through the design and permitting stage to improve the chances of receiving funding under this program. By statute, applications for funding under this program are due by September 1st of each year. So I'm thinking, here we go. The September 1st is around the corner, and I'd like to do that. It's a pretty hefty number. I've read through this at length, and I know I've just given it to you, but I want to get this out there so that we're at the brink of budget season, and we want to think about this. The price tag here is $77,000 to get through that point, and we should think about it. And we could put this on the agenda for another week if you guys want to have a chance to read it over. But I'm interested in getting this out there to the Finance Committee too, so that we can at least discuss it along with the field retention wall. I want to get these two things out there. If it gets turned down, it gets turned down, but it makes sense to think about it.
Could we advance a copy of this, send it to the whole board, the finance committee board, and there's 5 members, and they get a copy?
I have it digitally, so we could.
I mean, I would think that would be great to have them see it, since it's got a price tag.
I don't know if you want to talk about it at the next meeting a little bit more before we do that. We've advanced 15 to this already. And at the end of the day, if we don't have a shovel-ready project, we're kind of in a hold pattern to figure out how we're going to work on this thing. This doesn't fix it. This is just a design project, weighing options and so on and so forth.
It's a staged.
It's a stage.
And would have to do it anyway.
We would have to do it anyways, and I can't apply for this particular grant, which I want to, unless I have a shovel-ready project. That's what their recommendation is. And I get a sense that they work with us in applying for the grant, which would be nice to do.
And if we didn't do the things we need to do to fix the dam, and let's say it deteriorates, do we get to the point where we have to drain it and now we have what looks like what used to be a lake and now it's a shallow pond with a rivulet through the middle, just draining all the time?
Anything is possible. I think we'll see insurance rates go skyrocketing once it goes from fair to unsatisfactory. And we've got a finger in the dam right now holding that back, you know, and
Weren't we thinking that with this easement and cutting the brush and doing a few of those other maintenance type things that we could get it to go from fair to good?
I'm not under that impression. I mean, I can line up these fellows to come in here and talk about that, but a big issue is the spillway. It's probably 50% of it in my mind. If I can spend 70,000 to save 200,000, an additional 200, it kind of makes sense because something could come down to an executive order to fix, you know, to put us on the spot. And we can wait, but here it is. I wanted to get it on the table so that we could discuss it with the and the Sanderson promised I would say that the field retention wall is in a hold pattern waiting on the trustees to hear back from the trustees. But I would like to also forward that proposal to them so that they have a copy of both of these for the budget season. You know, and I'd explain a little bit, maybe include this memorandum because it describes the different grants.
But they haven't given us a proposal for the field.
They have to do an assessment of what it would cost because they don't know until they do the geotechnical borings. So they have to.
So it's the fee you pay to find out how much
it's
you
going
can
to
pay.
cost. That's exactly right.
You know, some of this I think needs to get the finance, it takes a long time to read, maybe more than once, so that I think the sooner they have it to consider it, because I ask myself, what does it mean to the town of Ashfield that there is no Ashfield Lake?
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, when you start talking about this number, to me, it doesn't seem so bad when the other side of the coin is no lake. If we don't do something, and if there's a grant we could get to, I don't know, it just seems like we need to get people looking at it, or we could get stuck with a mandatory repair in a very bad time.
Yeah, that's my concern. I'd rather be proactive than reactive on this.
No grant.
Well, the 77,000 doesn't guarantee that you're going to get the grant.
No,
That's
it
going to be a very competitive situation. And we like to think that 17 million is a lot of money, but we know that it isn't hardly anything. I mean,
I never thought
that's only 4 times the town of Ashfield's budget. And they're going to spread that over every dam or every possible dam?
Not everybody steps up to the plate for shovel ready. So last year was the first year, and a lot of people heard what I heard, that it's not shovel ready. And it probably was the best award last year because very few people were shovel ready. But everyone's either scrambling now or they're not scrambling. So
what's going through my mind is that I don't think we need to ignore it. It just amazes to me, and what seems to me, the older I get, you know, these windows seem to be, the 25-year window is not all that long ago. You know, in 1990, that was all done with huge amounts of state money, state and federal money, and some town money that did that, and
It's a long
we
time
didn't
ago
pay.
now.
Well, it's
Whole generation of
you would
children.
hope, you would hope that they did enough engineering in it the first time to, I mean, the first dam seemed to go forever.
Well,
things have developed lately with global warming. The hydraulic analysis, I've gone back on a bunch of inspection reports. No one can find the hydraulic analysis on it. And every report, even when it was satisfactory, said you really should have the hydraulic analysis because watersheds change, amount of rainfall changes, capacity. You know, some of these stories I hear, how much water goes over that spillway and safety and all those sort of things. I think think it's a pretty good idea, but if we want to get these guys in here too to talk about it, you know, I'm not interested in putting money in their pocket, I'm interested in the welfare of our town.
Will they also give us cost estimates? I mean, if they're doing all of this to sort of position us for shovel-ready, it would be nice to know what that looks like to start moving the shovels. Is it a 1 million project, 2 million, 3, 4? I don't know what it cost
They
in
won't know
1990.
until they get through the design, because the design phase determines that. So they do an as-built of it, they look at the drainage, they do the hydraulic study, then they say, for example, one of the things they said at our site meeting out there is, you might find that the spillway really needs to be 6 inches higher than it currently is. So that completely changes the cost. So they have to get through this study before they can answer that question. After that, then we'll know what it is, you know.
Do you have any thoughts that they might be able to, in their design process, break these out into, you know, must do number 1, number 2, and number 3 you can postpone? So
Phases.
if we only got partial money, it isn't like we committed to a huge
I imagine we can
monetary
request anything of them at that time. They have to get through the design, but
Yeah,
you know, I think this talks about an analysis and a recommendation on alternatives. I believe I saw that in here, and so we can just say, yeah, we'll make a proposal, but we need to do this or that. I thought the biggest issue was the cost at this point in time, not the deliverables. Because I didn't want to waste their time on this anymore, unless we have to come to a meeting. They could answer a lot of questions at a meeting, but it's good to get it on the table, even if the town rejects it, because we can say we studied it and we brought it forth to the town. So I mean, I think it's
What we have available today is $17,000 that we voted for maintenance. And it seems to me if we move forward in this direction, we won't get any maintenance done, but we'll have a binder that'll, you know, this would pay for the binder, you know, of what this report would.
Yeah,
We're only got
exactly.
$60,000
Sure.
short. And then, of course, there's $3,000 that's available for
the inspection.
the inspection. And is that,
Every 2 years.
is that this year?
That's this coming year, this coming August, September.
So it will actually be in fiscal year 15. And there is about $10,000 left in building park restoration, but the park commission's going to have to come up with some ideas on what to do with that.
if we
I mean, definitely, I agree that we should get it to the finance committee because it's going to be a lot to mull over.
Right, and if we were going to have Time Bond come in to talk about this before we get into the budgeting season, it would be great to have the Finance Committee or any other committees we think we might, I don't know, Conservation Commission, I don't know, any of them, to be here to ask questions, because sometimes other information comes up that
Yeah.
we all don't think of because other people see it differently, or at least have different perspective. So I don't know if the Conservation Commission, if that's applicable, or if there's any other group that might be interested.
Maybe we should
or weigh
aim-
in with some information.
Maybe we should aim to do that after the first of the year.
Early January, before we get to budgeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, they say in here, under schedule, that this could take 3 to 6 months to complete. So it's very possible that comes September 1st, you know, because we've gone through town meeting to appropriate the funds and this and that, you know, all these different things that they can't complete it by September 1st. So I will miss that first, it's possible we'll miss that first deadline for this.
Unless everybody decides to put their shoulder
Let's
into
just
it
go.
and a special town meeting decides that
Yeah, that could do,
that's where they want 20% of their free cash to go.
Mhm.
because it could cost them 80% tomorrow if they don't. That's up to them.
Well, we need some more information, and this is quite a lot of information here. But you can read that. My feeling is you could probably read this, and if you're not I'm familiar with a lot of what they're talking about, that probably it would be better to have them here to discuss it.
It's always better to have them here, but it reads well. I mean, I read through it a couple times, and it makes sense. It really does.
Even if we didn't have all the money, let's say, couldn't we do part of it?
Well, we could do anything.
Because they've broken down the prices, and it looks like there might be an order to this where you could attack some of these pieces. Because the permitting, maybe we don't need that before June, but you need it in order to apply, in July, before September or something. I don't know, just looking at the numbers. But there's some of this 1, 2, and 3 that looks like one could get started on.
Maybe they'd be willing to do it with partial monies, or something like that.
It
Usually costs a little bit more if you stagger it, but anything's
just looking for
possible.
some option.
I suppose the worst scenario would be to spend $77,000 on the study and have them come back and say that it needed $15,000 worth of work. That would be a bad situation.
In the inspection reports, they estimate somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000, and that's even without going through design. Okay. So, it's going to cost significantly more than 15. But it would be good to have them here, and I think probably during the budgeting season, when the finance committee's over there, Concom can sit out there.
What information did you glean? I mean, it seems like a few months ago, when we were talking about Nolan's easement and so forth, the information you had at that point, you seemed pretty confident that, boy, if we cut some brush and we had control of this land, that and we talked to the inspector just right, that probably he would improve it from fair to good. Plug those holes in the dam.
No, the dam, as I read the report,
Or the spillway, that.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible. But we did meet with them out there, and the one we didn't discuss is the second grant that we wanted to go after that offered 75 cents on the dollar. And I was told that, and that was the one I was really focused on to get the easement squared away with the Nolans. But I was told that it was considered, let me just reread this real quickly.
Still be reviewed as a rehab project.
Right, and I thought it was like new property and would have nothing, would not be considered, but they totally disagreed and said, no. Actually, they wrote back and said it would be considered a rehab project and would not qualify. And we were also waiting for the Doug's multi-hazard mitigation plan, which had to be in place before I could apply for this. So there was too many balls in the air on this one. But if you don't get to the design phase on this, it's hard to go after grants. And I'm not saying we can get any money from the grant, but getting to the design phase, usually a design phase effort is good for a period of time. So if the town has to pay for it out of their own pocket, it's good. If you sit on it for 10 years, you're going to have to go through design again, probably, because things change,
So since I just got this and I haven't read it, is there something in here that is going to be research on the economic benefit or, how valuable the lake is to the town? I mean,
No, there isn't
they're
anything.
really not going to be
This
in
is-
that situation.
This is just engineering and permitted, design. Was it take to keep that impoundment working safely?
Maybe I'm thinking a little too hard on it, but, it'd be like a beaver dam out in the woods gives way and doesn't bother anybody, so who cares, and if they're just looking at Ashfield Lake, like it's not the Quabbin Reservoir.
You'd be surprised if you could talk to Doug about Ashfield Lake and the flood potential of Ashfield Lake.
No, but I mean as far as the economic value to
Oh.
the town of having it for recreation.
Who's to say? Who's to say? You want me to line up a meeting with these guys? You want to hold?
I do.
I would like to see it in January before we get to budgeting and have the finance committee and conservation, get as many people in here so they can ask time-bound questions or throw information out that might be important.
Okay.
Is there any other board? I mean,
Well, definitely finance committee and park should come.
Park.
Commission and Concom.
is there anybody?
Or
else?
representatives
Planning
of.
board? I mean,
I don't think so.
doesn't
I mean, it's an existing structure, so it's not like we're planning anything. It's just, anyone can come. We can invite all the boards if they want.
Well, our meeting in the middle of January is the 13th. Probably should try to get a quorum of the finance committee, at least.
or if not, we could use one of those other days if we had to, if for some reason that was all that was going to work, and just have this be the topic.
My challenge is that we're 13, and then we meet the 27th, and I'm going to be out of town the week of the 20th.
And I am actually out of town that week too.
Is
So if
this
there's an emergency,
6
you're
to
in charge. You're going to have to be shoulder to shoulder with
with
Doug
Doug?
again.
Okay, there we go. It's
And my
January
wife says there's
6th.
always an emergency when I'm gone.
So do you want to focus on the 13th?
I would try to do that. I would think we could get at least 3 members of the finance committee, if not more.
Park and maybe Concom too. I mean, just to listen to representatives.
And I would think you'd want Doug.
But yeah, definitely,
Doug Field.
Emergency.
and Tom too, because Tom obviously has a lot to do with the dam. And would you have a problem if I sent out these 2 proposals? I'll send them out under 2 separate emails. One relating to Ashfield, they're talking about the grant process and just bringing them up to speed a little bit on that. And then I'd also like to get that one out on the field so that they just have knowledge of it anyways. And we could have time bond talk, it's the same guys, we could have them talk about that at the same meeting, why not do it?
It's a good idea because December disappears quickly for most people, so finding time to make sure they read things and get prepared, the sooner they know,
It's gone already.
sort of.
It's gone already. Here's a thought before we go too far down this road. Since we're going to meet on the 30th of December and then again on the 13th, do we want that to be our meeting on the 13th, or would we rather meet with them on the 15th?
A Wednesday the 15th?
I'm just putting that out there that we'll have our regular business to do.
On the 13th and use Wednesday the 15th? That works.
I'm open at this point for
That
that.
works for me. That's a good alternative.
Oh, because you're saying we're skipping 3
Instead of being
weeks?
here till 11:55.
Come on Wednesday for just time, the dam in the field.
Would that be?
That's acceptable to me.
Sounds good.
I don't have any fun,
Why don't we do that? I think that's a little more manageable.
okay. So I guess what I will do is coordinate with them, make sure the 15th is acceptable. And then once I hear it is, I'll send out 2 emails to the Finance Committee and Concom and Park Commission. And I'll say it'd be nice if we could have a quorum for the Finance Committee and representatives from the board. Is that all right? I'll CC you guys.
Right, and to me, an alternate date, if we're thinking this through, is if Tom's in town, would be back up a week to the 8th, just in case you can't get time bond, or you run into too many people that say, does it work, since going forward.
Or
we
a
could-
blizzard.
or-
You
Yeah.
you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I want to say the
As an
15th
alternative.
or the 8th. So I'll get back to you folks with the final decision on that. And can I suggest that they be ready to present at 7:30? They'll one at a time. And they'll have the full evening
Yeah. if they-
PowerPoint slides or anything like that.
They want it earlier, like 7 o'clock, because we won't have any other
They
business.
probably do.
That'll be fine, 7 o'clock.
7's good.
Okay. I will, I'll attend to that.
So those were bigger numbers than I expected, could you tell?
Every number is bigger than what I expect, but it's that time to settle in with me. Yeah.
Only thing I'm really good at is underestimating what anything should cost. Get that knocked off the list.
Well, thank you. There's a lot of work in there.
Thank you.
Just thinking, you've been spending all that time on 3 projects that are within a football field of each other.
By the way, I just wanted to say, yeah, exactly. They're right around. Town council informed me that she's on the cusp of delivering easement information and so on and so forth. She hasn't been sitting idle on that, so I just wanted to.
Good.
I expect that maybe next week I'll have something to report to that easement with the owners.
Very good, very good. All right, old business to discuss the public records request of 2 weeks ago. Ron, you had asked Mary to put that on the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, first I saw what was at our last meeting, and I'm not good with things just coming across the table and trying to digest them. And I've read those requests and what I'm going to call complaints, and I'm concerned. Give me a second here to locate.
We need to get you another binder, Ron.
No, I get enough binders, thank you very much. I'm referring to the one on November 6th. And it's not the public information request, it's called the violation of rights to privacy. And it's got blue in here, and it's got green in here, and it's got a lot of different colors, which I don't know how to interpret, but I called Susan Clark. Is Susan there? Yeah, she is. I called her. She has some situation today that might have prevented her from coming in. Asked her if she had any problem with me discussing this publicly. She didn't, because in Utah, we're named in this. Other than that, it was just boards, actual boards. And if you allow it, we can discuss it now. This is a complaint, and it would allow us to go into
Which
executive session to investigate charges of criminal misconduct or consider a filing of criminal complaint. So I don't want to discuss it publicly if you have a problem with that. Because you were named.
Oh, as far as me? Oh,
Yeah.
I would waive. I
Okay.
would waive that.
So then I'll continue if
Sure.
I can. In this, there was a lot of concerns about personal data being released to the public. I've highlighted a lot of parts of this. I consider the above stated actions as purposeful acts with malicious intent to retaliate and punish me. It talks about uncovering altered documents and records.
I just want to get to the right one.
November 6th, violation of rights of privacy, etc.
Yeah.
On page 3, this was committed by conspired and combined efforts. Conspiracy is a pretty serious allegation. I demand reversal of this action. I mean, I'm not even aware of the actions that are here. And when they're talking about you, with the letter for the Attorney General, continued intentional willful acts disregarding truth, that's calling you a liar, basically. These actions can only be viewed as premeditated, purposeful intent of harming me. Number 3, copies of the supporting evidence that prove probable cause of criminality that initiated the surveillance of my electronic communications, a form of wiretapping. I don't recall authorizing you to do any wiretapping.
No, I'd be the last one you'd ever want to ask.
And then at the last paragraph I have is I demand, so it's a demand, so it's a complaint and a demand, any and all parties involved to remove my information from Ashfield's website and any and all internet search engines upon receipt of this notice, and stop tracking me, and oh Lord, all that sort of stuff. And I'm concerned. I mean, I took Psychology 101 in college, and I'm not qualified to make a statement at this table, but I will tell you that I'm concerned for the safety of people in this town reading this letter. And I suggest that we look for a resource available to this board to examine this letter from that point of view, because I'm not qualified. This goes into some interesting places that concern me greatly, and I think we can't sit idly on this. A part of me says disregard it. It's noise coming in through this ear, you know. But when I read it again, I become very concerned, and those are my thoughts.
So you have some real concerns with that?
Real concerns. Real concerns.
Paulette?
Ron, just so I understand,
Yep.
you said concern for the safety of people in town? I'm trying to understand what that means.
I feel that this letter is being written by a person who is very cornered.
Cornered?
Enough said. Cornered, yes. As I read the words in black and white, I'm concerned that that person feels the corner. And I'm concerned about the safety. A lot of demanding in here. Select Board Chair Thomas Carter uttered false and misleading statements with reckless disregard about me, or submitted statements setting a charge against me, was intentionally belaboring staff, breaking the law, committing crimes.
Well, that's why I read that letter aloud 2 weeks ago that she's referring to there, that was sent to the Attorney General. That it didn't say any of those things.
I actually went on the health, not on the health board website, but I looked on the health board website because I wanted to see what this looked like. And it was actually, the link to it is on the front page of Ashfield.org. And it just says open meeting law violation allegations and record public information requests. And I went there, I thought it was professionally done. I didn't see, and I know a little bit about this privacy law because I had to work with it in the private sector, and I don't see a violation at all. But I would suggest that we send these letters to Donna McNichol. This is way complicated, and I'm concerned. And I think she ought to also weigh in on this to make sure that there is no violation. So I would suggest that we forward that to her also, all 4 letters, because 2 of them came in at a time. So I didn't really answer your question, Paulette. I'm concerned. If I'm the only one concerned, then I'll be it and leave it alone, and let's get on to the next order of business. How about you, Tom? What did you feel about that?
Well, I just feel that it's another letter, you know, and maybe it brings up some points that someone might need to be sensitive to, but, you know, some of the allegations, it's pretty easy for me to disregard. And that may be my bad point, is that I, a lot of times, will disregard too much. I really don't have a problem with sending this to Donna, except that I hate to see us spend more money on town council over something that's been addressed, you know, and then it's been done and it's been taken care of, you know. This talking about stuff being on the website you know, that it's a problem and that it's given up too many things. I mean, it seemed like it was only 3, but it was probably 6 months ago. We had a long discussion about, right, they wanted an army of volunteers to take absolutely everything in the vault and put it on the website. And here we're getting emails, communications, we're getting all this, that all becomes, we all know that if they ask for it, right, through any of this documentation, that it's public record. So, you know, to email us letters and that sort of thing, and then be thinking that somebody's privacy is being violated because they sent us something through the public website, that all of a sudden it's not public information. It's a fine line that I'm not sure which side to be on. Except maybe not go on the website and not be sending a bunch of emails, if that's the concern. I mean, that is the concerns of the things that I would want Donna to look at is you know, the policy of this information when we get emailed all these letters and that sort of thing. But if you get a paper letter, that as soon as it comes into the town office, it's public information as far as I know.
All correspondence.
So, I mean, from a practical point of view, it would be easier for me to ignore it than to spend money on town council, but at the same time, I can understand that it may need to be looked at closer. I mean, legal expense, we appropriated $10,000, we have $4,832 at this time after this warrant was just signed, which should get us, I believe that invoice got us right up to date through, it was through Halloween and that, so there might be, yeah, it's not anything in November really.
But if I may, Tom, this was delivered tonight. This is an open law complaint form. And it's hand in hand with what we're discussing tonight. Those letters play right into this. Those letters are background to this complaint. And I'm going to suggest later that we submit this complaint to town council to respond to, and you can give the letters as backup to this thing. I just don't know. I'm concerned. I'll go on record saying I'm very concerned with these letters and the way they're written and the words that are used.
Paulette, you have a position on sending it to town council, or what we should be doing?
Given a couple of meetings that have happened, one was a special town meeting, and the meeting of July 31st, lots of things were said, they were recorded. I will abstain from being involved in this.
So you're going to follow the path that you did on July 31st?
On July 31st, I was included in a 2-page document signed by 4 members of Town Hall, Mary, Lynn, Laura, and Ann, with multiple accusations. All I'm saying is, you two, it would be wise, I think, for me to abstain from offering any opinion on this when I have already been cited in that document that was signed and read at a meeting with many members of the public here, to now be voicing some opinion about this incoming email, or mailing. It's not an email, it's a letter.
So your abstention on July 31st feel that you want to stay arm's length of the whole thing. I'm just trying to understand your position.
Well, if you go back and you read the 2 pages that the 4 ladies in town hall, Mary, Lynn, Laura, and Ann wrote, and the conversation they had, and the accusations on the table that included me, I don't think it would be wise at that time, or at this time, for me to somehow now be offering opinions on those topics. So I would say the smart thing for me to do is just to abstain. I'm not saying yes or no, I'm just going to abstain from any involvement with that, or with this.
Well, with this, I haven't even read this that was delivered to me, to be honest. Open meeting law complaint form filed by Suzanne Corbett. Ashfield Selectboard is the body. Specific persons you allege committed the violation is Selectboard Chair Tom Carter. It's really small print. But you got it all inside the box.
She must have one for Ann, right? You give a copy of Ann? Copy from the back.
Yeah, it directly relates to what we're already talking about. Ron, if you'll make a motion, I'll second it to send all this to town council.
Yeah,
Because,
I would do it under a different motion. The motion would be, can I jump the agenda item and talk about this complaint? We have before us an open meeting law complaint from Suzanne Corbett. Date of alleged violation is September 23rd, 30th, October 7th, November 18th, 2013. And it's filed as of the date, looks like December 1st, 2013. And I would suggest that we have Donna address this complaint, and as backup, we give her the four requests for information and complaints. There were 2 separate mailings, 2 in each mailing, as backup for it. Have her respond to this. And it's going to take some time, because she's going to have to dig through and work with Mary on this, but I think that they're hand in hand. You know, they don't have to be 2 separate issues.
I'll second it. Mainly because it would get it off of our table for the time being, so we can move along with the other business and the other things on the agenda that we need to move forward.
So did you get that, Mary? With the 4 documents?
Yes, give Donna the
Complaint?
the RML complaint dated 12/1/13 plus the 4 November.
Yeah, I'll give you my copy. You don't have one, right?
No, we didn't get one, so we just made one.
Here's one. This is actually the one Suzanne dropped.
Oh, you just copied it?
Yeah, they just.
Oh, for the clerk. This is
And so did
Suzanne dropped this.
No. This is a thick package. You've got to go through more than the open. There's a whole bunch of
Oh,
packages.
they just copied the complaint.
Yeah.
Oh,
Why don't you
okay.
take this little
Great,
package?
that's great. And did you?
Drop it in my mailbox, in my slot there.
I will do.
Okay.
And did you all get the, did you also get a copy of the response to one of the public document requests, or did you just get the?
It's in there. It's in the
in
package
here,
I gave you.
okay.
Yeah. In
Didn't know if
different
you all needed
colors.
that.
Correct.
All right, so motion's been made, seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Abstentions?
Abstention.
Got that, Lynn?
Well, on this topic though, I do have something I'd like to read in to our meeting that may be helpful.
Do you have a printed copy so we can attach it?
I sure do.
Good.
Yep. It is a couple sentences from the meeting minutes on the web. So I'm assuming you're the same in the book. From June 25th, 2012, Donna McNichol was here. Ron was here, Paulette was here, and Doug Field. She was addressing the select board. And I am on page 2 of 4, the way this printed. And there were questions for council. And it said, number 1 on this list, role of chair. Ms. Luckhart asked council to explain the role of the chairman. Ms. McNichol responded that the selectmen are a board and act as a body. The chairman runs the meetings but has very little authority unless given it by the board as a whole. No member of the board has authority to act alone unless given same by the body or board. The rest of the sentence is of a different topic. I looked that up because I remember she was here and we asked the question. So, I have a copy if you want. I just printed it off the web. I just remembered she was here that particular meeting, so you could make reference to that particular item.
So that's a little bit different approach than the Attorney General took when the complaint went through that he asked one of the police officers to bring a member under control. And the Attorney General's office said that the chairman certainly did have authority above and beyond.
To run the meeting and set the agenda, as she's explained.
It seems like that was a little bit different flavor than that, but hey, this is town council, this is the person that I would want to send stuff to, so.
You weren't at that meeting, so I thought it best to bring forward.
That was before my time. All right, any other discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll go to new business. We do not want to start the first of the year without being able to buy alcohol in town, so there's some liquor licenses that need to be signed.
There are. And there are a number of places to sign them.
That certainly is a bigger folder than it used to be.
I guess so. A couple of them are filed on multiple pages. Need to be signed on multiple pages.
Oh. Okay, there's our liquor licenses one at a time. Elmer's Store LLC. License for alcoholic beverages. General on-premises license, license to expose, keep for sale, and to sell all kinds of alcoholic beverages to be drunk on the premises. So this isn't a package store license, this is
In drink on premises.
we used to call that a common victualler. Anybody have a problem with reissuing this license, or make a motion?
And has nothing to come forward as a concern.
I move that we approve the license for alcoholic beverages for Elmer's Store LLC.
Second. Any discussion, Ron?
No.
All those in favor say aye. 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 Lakeside Ventures, doing business as Ashfield Neighbors. This is a retail packaged goods store license. Not to be drunk on the premises. motion that we renew the license for Lakeside Ventures Incorporating, doing business as Ashfield Neighbors, for a licensed alcoholic beverages, a retail package goods store.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Unanimous. You. Lydian Enterprises Incorporated, doing business as the Ashfield Lake House. This is a license for alcoholic beverage, general on-premises license. Full-service restaurant and bar, including 2 dining areas and deck with commercial kitchen on the first floor.
So moved.
So moved. Second?
Second?
Second, good. Share the burden here. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
License for alcoholic beverages, general on-premises license to expose, keep, to be drunk on the premises. This is for Mark D. Graves and June L. Heidemann and Suzanne Connell, doing business as Edge Hill Golf Course at 278 Barnes Road. Golf course and clubhouse consisting of 2 floors, 2nd floor restaurant, 1st floor, 1 room for sales, 2 rooms for storage, pro shop and office. I'll move that.
Second.
Second. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Looks like we need another one.
Oh, there's 2 pages on that one? Or there's 2 pages on all of them?
No, this one, they were by the owner, but this one says local licensing authority too.
Yeah.
See, I've got one here.
I think there's
See, that
only
must
one,
be-
but I'm not sure.
It's got 2.
Oh, I don't- This one got detached, so I wasn't paying attention. That goes to the state. That's a certification. You found one?
Did we do Dan?
Sign on those 2.
This is the one that fell off of this one. Now, this is a certification, Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission, acting under the authority, Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 17, the underside local licensing authority met at the Ashfield Town Hall. December 2nd, 2013. Number 1800, this This is a certification. There's 2 places to sign on this. This estimate was made, it says that as of July 10th, 2014, they're estimating the population at 1,800. This estimate was made and voted upon by the undersigned at a meeting called for the purpose. After due notice to each of the members of the town clerk for said meeting and after investigation and factual deliberation. Is there a problem with figuring that there's 1,800 people in the town for the purposes of notifying?
It says approximately, right?
It says approximately. It's close enough on any given day. So this is just the certification for the town. It's for the Alcohol Control Commission. So all those in favor say aye. I already get that mistake. That's all right. Wonder how many more people we have to get another license. After all this signing, I'm ready for a drink. There's Christmas parties.
What does this do?
That's just telling them what the population is to justify the number of liquor licenses.
Oh,
you
okay.
have.
Thank you. Do we have to sign here too?
Yes. There's a sticky that you're supposed to sign. Here we go. All right. Next, under new business. Mary, Office of the Attorney General request for approval to release letter and attachment dated February 6th of 13.
Right, and I have something for you to follow along with. I had a call from the Attorney General's office requesting that the board approve release of a communication that I sent to the Division of Open Government. Actually, Paulette Lucard, I believe. My understanding is that you've requested documents from the Attorney General's office, and believe in connection with the open meeting law violation complaint filed against previous board chair Doug Field for actually the incident you were all just referring to, and that the Attorney General's office returned a response, a finding in that case, finding that there was no open meeting law violation, and then as part of your request for documents from the AG's office, the open meeting law, Chapter 30A, requires, and I've highlighted in yellow, that any documentary material
Right at the bottom.
that they are asked to hand over has to be, the municipal material has to be at the consent of the municipal governing body.
So when you break that all down, the Attorney General communicated with you
First with town council and then with me,
for information concerning that.
the Attorney General's office, right. Requesting that it be brought to the select board for a vote. They cannot release, the file has been requested, they cannot release this material without town's approval. And it's the 2 letters dated February 6th, actually one letter and one cover sheet for the email. Or email cover sheet. So
I mean,
it
what we're
requires a
talking
vote
about
of the board.
releasing are these?
Those are the two documents that you would be giving the Attorney General's office permission to release in response to the request for documents.
These with nothing else?
That's it.
Well, I make a motion to release it. We've already spent way too much time on that.
Yeah, my explanation covers two.
I thought there was something in it.
Nope. Those are the documents.
I'll second it. Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
I'll abstain.
All right. Green Communities Annual Report. I just got that in my email today.
Yep.
And I haven't read it. Is there anything that stands out?
Not much. It's
It was
intended
next
to.
on my list to open.
It's basically reporting on what activities we've completed in the last year, summarizing what effects those have had on energy usage by the town. Nearly everything that we've done so far has been directed at reducing electrical use. In terms of conserving energy, the other stuff that's been going on has been energy audits. And we have seen a significant reduction in electrical use in 4 buildings that we've done stuff in. That's documented in the report. I think it comes out
Without me digging for what page, when you say significant reduction, how?
18% reduction. If you look at the last 12 months and compare that to the 12 months prior to that, we reduced electrical use in the town hall, fire station, library, and town garage by about 18%. And it came out to, that amounted to, I've forgotten how many dollars worth of difference that was, 1,800 maybe. About $1,900, about 41 megawatts less, megawatt hours less electricity, about $1,900 worth. And then just talking briefly about the plans for the next year, which are doing most of the stuff that's been recommended by the energy audits, insulating, air sealing, and modernizing heating systems in those 4 buildings. There's also a wastewater treatment plant. We just finished a project there, but we haven't seen any results from that.
We just signed the warrant with $23,000.
Right. We should see dramatic reduction in the heating fuel use there, probably reducing the propane use by 80 or 90% is what we're anticipating as a result of that project.
Well, that was like a black hole for energy dollars there, right?
Yep. Yep. Heating a large greenhouse, not cheap.
When there's nothing green inside of it.
Yeah. There's a little moss on some of the rocks. A lot of the work for the report was actually getting all our energy use data up to date, and there's a state database called Insight where we have to report a lot of details about our energy use month to month. We spent quite a bit of time getting all of that data up to date from 2010 up to current, and we've got to keep that up to date currently now. And that's what allows us to track what kind of reductions we see in our energy use as time goes on.
So the project that's you're working on right now that's on the front burner is the firehouse, getting that?
Town hall and firehouse are what we're focused on mostly. There's some work starting to go on for the library as well. Air sealing, insulating, and heating system replacements in town hall and fire station in particular. There's a new heater going into the bay area of the fire station on Wednesday, I believe. And we've got stuff in process to replace the boiler here and improve the design of the heating system. We're going to break up 3 of the offices that are currently one zone into 3 separate zones. And we will be shortly after that doing the air sealing of the insulating of the foundation in both the town hall and the fire station. We're still working on getting bids for insulating, doing more insulating for the office area here and in the fire station. The library trustees are working with the contractor to get estimates on doing some air sealing and insulating for the library. We have not got very far with the recommendations for the town garage yet. We just got, that was the last audit we finished. We've gone over it once with Tom. We need to do that again and do some more work before we can propose projects for that.
Another one of those projects that was completed not too long ago. I would hope it's fairly energy efficient when they built it.
There's some air sealing issues and things that we can improve with the air handling in there. There's a recommendation for replacing the heating system. I don't think we're going to do that, but we've got more work to do there. There's some other design issues that we're looking at making improvements to. For example, the air handling system for the bathrooms runs continuously whenever the building's occupied. There's no heat exchanger or anything. It's just sucking hot air out of the bathroom and blowing it outside all day long in the building.
It's contributing to global warming.
Yeah, kind of a waste.
On a number of levels.
Yeah. There's some other issues like that that we're looking at getting fixed.
Any questions for Ryan on what they're working on? I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to read the report, but
I have one small question, Brian. There's this, one of the attachments you sent dealt with the different criteria, and this one I'm looking at, you provided a narrative relative to bike racks and electric charging stations. Is it worth talking to Nolan's? I mean, they're going to tear up that whole area there, and it's an interesting thought that, everyone knows the possibility is there.
That's one of the areas that between the neighbors and the post office, we thought there should be one in that area.
No, I meant the electric charging station.
Oh.
Because they're going to be replacing the canopy in there and doing all that stuff. It would be perfect time to, I don't know how difficult it is to do it while they're doing all the work. I mean, it makes sense. Electric vehicles will become
there
more
might be
popular.
some savings there. That's a thought.
It's worth a discussion.
Yeah, the public ones are pretty expensive.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, I'm talking
I've seen them over near Wilson's.
10 to 15,000.
15,000.
There are usually 2 of them together, so you're talking about 60, 70 amps. And it has to be set up outside, so it's weatherproof. And
You couldn't have them where the gas pumps are because it'd take too long, right? I mean, people want to get in and out of it.
Yeah. That's a lot more involved than just putting one in your residence. I put one in my garage for $1,000.
so for this report you sent us, you need a signature by what date? yesterday?
The deadline for submitting the report is the 16th. So this is the last meeting before I have to upload the thing.
Maybe a chance to read this.
No, I didn't, but
Looks like you just went through and filled in the blanks and gave the general discussion, just like what you just told us, right?
Yeah, yeah. The section, I didn't mention this, the section Ron was talking about is, one of the criteria is vehicle use in town. In fact, almost 50% of the energy use in town is fuel for our town vehicles, and I guess it's a similar kind of story in other municipalities. So there's ambitious objectives there for reducing fuel use by requiring municipalities to buy fuel-efficient vehicles for their fleet in the future. And we have a policy stating that, but all but one or two of the vehicles in town, municipal vehicles in town, are considered exempt because it's almost all highway department things are heavy vehicles. So we have almost no leverage in being able to reduce our fuel use there. So we met that criteria with by specifying an alternatives, and what we did was specify that we get bike racks in public areas of town, investigate or pursue getting the DPW, the town garage, to start using a biodiesel blend for their diesel fuel, and look at getting a electric vehicle recharging facility at the town hall. But Ron's suggestion may be a good one, and I'll try and follow up on that.
there's such things as electric, more fuel efficient or partial electric vehicles that would be, next time we need to get a town small truck. Is that, do you get a different kind of truck so you can get more efficiency, or are those trucks already excluded?
Everything at the town garage and the fire station are excluded or not, are exempt, because they're heavy vehicles and have requirements, their usage requirements exclude them from coming under the mileage requirements. What they have is a set of mileage based on the type of vehicle. They have to be, new ones have to meet a certain mileage requirement, and that's the only one that's really relevant to is the pickup that the wastewater treatment plant is in the process of replacing. So they are somewhat constrained in their choices by that.
So I was wondering about the pickup truck, but then I realized they also use it for plowing.
Well, I was just thinking that maybe the sewer,
Yeah, that's the
they're
pickup.
talking about needing a new truck.
That's the pickup I was just referring to, the wastewater treatment.
So that could probably,
Yeah, I've made them aware of the requirements they have to meet in choosing their new vehicle. They can't just go buy an old used one that's a gas hog.
well, let's say, we didn't think about it for the grader. We could have had a plug-in grader. Solar panels on the top of it.
Yeah. Trailer truck behind it full of batteries to run it.
Wouldn't work very well grading Bug Hill Road or something in the trees.
Might be good in a roller.
Brian, you talked about biodiesel. What percentage of our fleet could we do that with? The big trucks?
Yeah, all the diesel vehicles could run a biodiesel mix. It would be actually beneficial to the engines. Biodiesel mix provides superior lubrication for the engines and has health benefits as well. It dramatically reduces some of the noxious exhaust characteristics.
We'd have to get a separate tank for that, obviously.
No, we would just mix it in with the diesel tank, fuel tank that they use to fuel the vehicles.
They actually use it as an additive, right?
Yeah, effectively. Yeah.
What percentage, out of curiosity?
Anything above about 5%, 5%, 3 to 5% is the minimum to get the benefits of engine lubrication, the maintenance benefits for the engines. You can go up to about 20% in cold weather without concerns with congealing.
Okay.
In warmer weather, you could go up to 100%.
Thanks.
That's what we do. We use it on the farm. We've been using it on the farm for 2 or 3 years for all our diesel equipment because it makes.
Are you using it in the road tractor? And does that have the new pollution control stuff on it? Because I just find with my fleet of trucks that I'm in charge of that it doesn't take much of a change to totally mess up those pollution control deals.
I'm not aware that there's any issue with the biodiesel for that.
You know, when
We
it
have-
burns the ignition, you know, it gets up to 370 degrees or something. I mean, it doesn't take anything to stop it.
Well, the biodiesel mix dramatically reduces the pollution from in the exhaust. It makes it much easier to work around diesel equipment. That's one of the reasons, one of the primary reasons we use it on the farm is when we're working with tractors inside buildings, changing equipment and stuff. It makes a dramatic difference in how much noxious effect it has on you. It's a very noticeable difference. It's beneficial to the equipment as well, the engines. It's much easier on the engines. I ran.
I did,
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. You didn't see anything that was a problem.
I didn't.
If we give Paulette I asked Paulette to just scan over it and see if anything. So we can get it signed and taken care of so we don't have to bring it up again, or bring it up late. Is this gonna help us get another $145,000?
Well, if we don't submit it on time, we're not.
We might not get the
We're
first
not.
one.
It flatly says we're not eligible for additional
Any
fund,
problems
future
with
fund.
Any extra points for signing early?
Well, when you and Stuart are kicking around here, when you're resting, could we do a little investigation on this crack? Because it's turning into a hell of a breeze. Paulette's gonna have to wear her woolies to sit there if we continue meeting in this room, because it's getting to be quite a...
Yeah, I see that board is starting to go south there.
I mean, it's one thing when it's getting
Yeah.
big under Paulette's, but I see it stretching over to where I sit, so I'm starting.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
You're so right, you're fine.
Well, it is.
The rest of us can fall into the abyss.
I'll talk to Stuart. I looked at that and you can't get to it underneath without pulling down the sheetrock in the janitor's closet. So we'll have to, I think we're gonna have to go in from above here.
Right.
If you moved all of your table forward and your chairs forward, you wouldn't be on the crack.
We wouldn't want to go too far and have to push people out. Be
You
welcoming.
still got plenty of room here.
Is there a motion to
So moved.
authorize me to sign this?
So move.
Second.
All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, and all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Brian, when will any of this process about saving energy include like storm windows around on this floor?
If we get a future grant, that may be an item. It just, the payoff for that is not high enough to make the cut.
Because the space is not used all the time.
All right, Brian, you still are, got the light on you here. Firehouse service upgrade.
Yes.
It's like $10,000, right?
It's just under 3,000.
Yeah, no, just under 3,000 for the estimate for the electrical service.
Oh, okay.
The service upgrade
29.
bid from Poisson was $29.85.
So we need to upgrade the electrical so you can put in the heat pump.
For the office area, right?
Is that bringing in a new service into the building?
No,
Or
it's upgrading the existing service.
So we'll still have a 100 amp service.
200.
There is 200.
It's 100 now, it will go to 200.
Oh, but, right. 200 is available, but we can only tap 100 with the service. that we
The
have.
service box is there as 100 amp. meter trough is 100 amp.
When you spoke to Robbie about that, did you feel that by doing this, we wouldn't have to revisit that particular spot again? The 200 amp service, if he has a 200 amp box there, it should take care of us for the foreseeable.
The box, the service box he lists here is a 40 circuit main breaker panel. I think it's one that's in there is less than half that, so
Yeah, it's gonna go away.
hope so.
Now, 2 weeks ago, I think you were here, when
Yes.
Dell was in, and you're not supposed to ask questions you don't know the answers to, but I asked Dell about how far down the road he thought the firehouse would get us, and he's thinking that 10 or 15 years, that firehouse would be obsolete. Do you think the investment of this heat pump and this electrical work is for naught if we're not going to be able to get the longevity out of it?
Well, the two heaters that we're replacing in there are at end of life. The office heaters, living on borrowed time. I've been pushing this because my opinion is the thing could fail any day. So we're faced with replacing them. We're probably spending a little more capital investment in what we're replacing to get ones that are significantly more efficient. So we try to do something with the energy sense in mind that will have a much better payoff longer term, because they'll be safe, we'll be using a lot less fuel. So we're faced with replacing the heaters anyway. We're doing it, spending a little bit more money buying better quality stuff to go in there because it's going to use a lot less energy than just buying putting the cheapest stuff we could in there.
So unless we have any outstanding invoices that we haven't processed, which I can't believe we have 2887.35 left in that account.
So
we need for firehouse / town hall capital.
We need another $150, huh?
And we do still have some painting invoices out, but they can come from town hall accessibility renovation, possibly.
You'd like to move on this,
Yeah.
for all the reasons you just mentioned, of course.
Yeah. We are planning to actually do the installation of the heat pump ourselves, so we're going to actually get that heater replaced probably for not much more than just replacing it with another LP, a cheap LP burner. This bid from Poisson is a really good price too for what they're doing.
Well, when we're talking about special town meetings, one of the things that I've thrown out there is trying to get $4,500 to take it from Fred Cross to cover some of this painting.
Yes, I remember.
I don't know why I said 4,500. $40,000. We can actually put that dollar figure to that. So I really don't have a problem. It may be a slight authorizing over the expenditure, but I think in our plans, finance committee could cover that out of the reserve fund if we need to.
Yes.
In the short term. Do you have any issue with it, Ron?
I don't. I think, I'm just going through this, looking at this schedule, Brian, table 4. You have a lot of this grant going to the firehouse, right? I mean, I see all these items in here, everything from engineering study and, air seal, insulate foundation, all these different things.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, to not bring it up to the required amperage there would mean that, these were all part of your proposal for this sort of thing, right? So I see it as just fait accompli, I really do. And if we get 15 years out of it, we get 15 years, we get to get this money from this grant.
Well, hopefully before Robbie sends us a bill, we'll have something to cover the 150 or even more.
So how are we paying for it?
Out of that town hall, the firehouse town hall capital account.
And then we'll,
Try to make some money.
And I could go ahead and contact Ted and approach him about, they have a meeting on the 11th.
We can just tell them, you know, I would just notify them that, you know, we want to get this done, we feel it's important, but we may need to approach them to cover that. We may or may not.
The difference.
Yeah, we may or may not, depending on how far down the road. So, is there a motion to, I'll make a motion that we authorize the Green Committee to move forward with the firehouse service upgrade, according to Poisson Electric's bid quote.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
Sounds good.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. All
Great,
right.
thank you.
Okay, town common application for a winter solstice celebration. We're getting pretty close.
And this one,
Only 19 days away,
this
right?
event, yep. 18, maybe this event has happened for a number of years, maybe 4 or 5.
I didn't even realize there was a winter solstice community committee.
Well, it's not a town committee.
I didn't remember us making it. Oh, the sponsor is Heather Gray.
I spoke to Heather today, told her we'd look at it tonight, she said she couldn't be
The
here.
event begins at 5:30 and ends at 9:30. Estimated attendance 40 to 50, 25 vehicles along the street. Sanitary facilities to be used at Elmer's. December 20th. That's not our meeting day, is it?
No, we're on the 16th.
String music will be the entertainer.
It's a Friday.
It'll be a night out. 7 to 8 p.m. No alcohol will be served. So this is, do we want to let the Winter Solstice Community Committee have their gathering on the town common?
I'll move that we allow it to happen.
I'll second.
You'll second it?
Absolutely.
Any other discussion?
It was, I went to it last year and it was fun.
Did you?
Yeah.
I've never been.
They have something burning in a special
Yeah.
metal. I mean, it wasn't burning in the grass.
There was a fire
Something
there,
was
you're right,
elevated.
and it was so cold that no one got warm by that fire. And there was singing, and before we got there was some reindeer people doing some pagan stuff. But it was fun.
That kind of freaks me out.
Clothing optional.
No, it was a cold night.
That'll be the summer.
Yeah. All right, enough of that from the crowd.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Let's go. Room for one select board signature. Please. Liaison reports. Tom hasn't got to me with a date for the grader yet, they haven't nailed it down, he doesn't have a date good enough to come out and say, but
To be delivered?
he's thinking it's, right, to be delivered, he's thinking it's gonna be after the first of the year. He did make a remark to me yesterday that never before the 1st of December has he had to sand the town roads 4 times. So he says, we really don't want to be looking forward to this.
Might
If the
need more
winter-
sand, huh?
The old school says you can plow all day for what it costs you to sand once.
Really?
Cost of sand and salt. Just scattering it on the roads.
But just moving the snows,
Yeah.
cats,
Just because I feel.
these,
So hopefully, those guys will get their white tails here this week, and we'll have a full crew working next week. Todd should be on board.
Good.
That's about all I have.
I don't have a report from fire or police, but I do believe there was an event over last weekend, I think it was Sunday, where the telephone pole near the telephone building on Main Street, it snapped off, and it was laying across the road. So on one side of the road, just before you make the left onto Buckland, was one of our vehicles with some of our fire department people, and on the other side, sort of near across the street from Ricketts, was the state police. And interestingly enough, somehow they managed to get it set upright, and as far as I know, didn't disrupt a lot of service, and the only house that was out was the one that was connected to that pole that goes back. The house
Oh,
to
the
the right of
Wellspring
Ricketts. Yes.
Yeah.
They lost power. Other than that,
No accident though, wasn't it an accident?
no,
Just-
that was that windy day.
It was that windy day,
Yeah,
and
it snapped off at the bottom.
Hmm.
So it looks like what they did is put in another pole and then made that one upright and connect.
it was
sister
quite a few
together.
hours, because
Yeah,
must have happened about 2 o'clock, I guess. You came home, right? I was asleep, taking a nap.
And they were still working on it at 1 o'clock in the morning.
oh, that.
They were working
There
on
were
it,
the lights, yeah, all the emergency vehicle lights were still out.
so. Oh,
And I
that
believe
was.
Verizon still hasn't replaced the original pole.
No, they were kind of they kind of stood it up and sistered it to the new one they put in and didn't move all
The pole is there, is a Western Mass. Verizon wouldn't come and
Right,
do
that-
anything. It's a Verizon pole that broke off.
And I
Western
believe
Mass
it's-
put in a new pole
Yeah.
and just lashed the old thing to it. And Verizon has yet to appear. According to Dell this afternoon, Verizon has yet to come and do anything.
the. So Western Mass was the
Yeah.
one that, because they had one outage to the Wellspring house.
They probably had the service truck closest, just like if something happened tonight. It depends on whose service truck is the closest, I think.
Thank you. Didn't know who fixed it for sure.
Well, it isn't a long-term fix right now. They'll probably design it to put the pole closer to the road so somebody can run into it.
If Verizon is as responsive to that as they have been to some stuff on our farm, it'll be there for years. We have a pole that looks like that, that's holding up.
Ron, I think you
Verizon wires.
liaisoned yourself out here.
No, I do have one thing to report. I met with the town hall staff, and there is a storage space issue. And rather than me put it forth as I understand it, I don't work here day in and day out, I suggest that we pick a meeting to happen and invite them to come here and share with the whole board, so that I don't have to translate. But I played with ideas in my mind to try to understand if it would fit in the bread box, you know, how big is the issue, sort of thing. And it's pretty complicated, and I don't want to see us lose that room back there, that meeting room. That's a very nice thing for small groups to get together. It's heated, it's a nice thing, but there is an issue. And
As cold as it was when I came in here, I was thinking that small room was
looking pretty good. So I would suggest that Mary line that up on some future meeting, find out when people can attend it and express it to this group, because last year the issue also came up, and it came down to the cost of hiring some interior decorator or architect to tell us what we could do with cubicles and this and that sort of thing, you know, so it's a good time to bring it up. Whether or not there's an issue, I'll let them put it forth. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, the engineering cost should be less than the dam.
No, no. If we want to get a grant, so can I ask Mary to coordinate that to get before us with?
I mean, we could do that on a Monday night meeting. You know, it's not like the time bomb where we're thinking of bringing in on an alternate.
So the way things are looking for the 16th, maybe the 30th would probably be the soonest, or after that.
I suggest we do it after the first of the year and kind of incorporate that maybe to preload the budget. Because we don't have any money to do that otherwise.
We should talk, we should invite the building committee to that, the town hall committee, you know, so that we can get their minds involved with it too. I think that would be an appropriate thing to do. That's it for me, ladies and gentlemen.
Mail.
Mail, let's see, there's a reminder that you have a Select Board Essentials meeting this Thursday, December 7th, 7 p.m. at the college workshop on the aging of Franklin County and its impacts.
When is that?
It's this
This
Thursday,
Thursday.
December 12th.
Next Thursday, December 12th.
Thank you. Okay, that's what
Next
was
Thursday.
throwing me off. I thought they moved the meeting.
Next Thursday.
Thank you.
December 12th.
Now, at one point, I thought they had moved it to an earlier time, but it's still 7 p.m.
No, that just
Okay.
came in an email recently too, so
Okay.
just like today or
Okay.
yesterday.
Because I was planning on going, but for some reason I
Yeah, I've
And
already
it
sent
says they were
her
talking
that.
about the seniors, you had it in your mind that they had to be like kind of early bird special or something.
But maybe I should be there for 6.
And then there's a meeting to be held December 9th to create a Western Massachusetts Historical Commission Coalition. The intentions for the coalition provide an opportunity for local historical commission members and other individuals, interested individuals, to meet.
So did that get to the historical commission?
I did send it to them, and let me see, did it come?
Would it go to someone like Alden, the Historic
No,
Society?
to,
Not to the actual commission.
yeah, to the commission.
What?
Yes, thank you.
Who?
Gudgeon. What's his first name? Steve Gudgeon.
Oh, Steve, sure.
Steve Good.
Nancy Gudgeon, Nancy Garland. So it's a meeting in Springfield. I don't know if the select board has any interest, if you want me to send it to you.
We'll forward it in an email.
Can I just read some of this for the public? Because it says, for this meeting on the 12th, Essentials Workshop, preparing for the Silver Wave, the aging of Franklin County and its impacts. The population that is 55 years old and over is expected to increase by 77% over the next 25 years. What does the changing demographic mean for local governments, and what are some regional approaches to meeting our growing, aging population? And it's open to more than, the email said it's open to more than people on the select board, so anybody else? I don't know if there's impact there for Board of Health
We keep all going
concerns as
together.
well.
Keep it all going together. Flu shots will keep going for a long time.
Workshop will be hosted by Cynthia Jacqueline, J-A-C, Jacqueline, Director of the UMass Nursing PhD program.
Very good. Anything Anything else in the mail folder?
No.
Pretty slow over the holidays, isn't it?
Not much there.
Alright. We've already covered items not reasonably anticipated by the chair. Any public comment? I was a little scared wondering what my wife was gonna say. Wayne?
I hope that you'll be represented at that because you have a worse problem.
I do?
This town does, yes.
Oh, worse problem than 77%?
It isn't gonna be 25, it isn't gonna be 25 years. You're looking at 5 years. And 40% increase. According to your street list and ages.
Okay. Any other public comment? Our next scheduled select board meeting is Monday, December 16th.
Before you wrap up, that made me think, did we ever get feedback from Anne, who was going to get in touch with town council about taking birth dates off the street list? Remember when that came up in our meeting? That we attended?
I remember it coming up at the meeting.
And then we brought it here, and she was going to, I think we said to have her check with town council whether or not, what was involved for doing that. And it just occurred to me we hadn't heard back on it.
Yeah, I can check with her.
I don't remember hearing anything.
I can
Because of
address that a
security
little
issues.
bit. Both Sheldon and Buckland have looked into it, and it's the same lawyer. And the COA has a right to it, but we can't publish it. We can't publish names. Then that gets into the HIPAA law. But we can get the numbers and the addresses.
You mean the ages?
Yeah.
The ages and the addresses.
Yeah. And then, but we can't publish that information or give it to other organizations.
Now, see, I think on the flip side of that
You guys can get it, obviously.
is that we don't want to give out ages for 10-year-olds and their addresses, you know, going to school, waiting for a bus. I mean, didn't Dave Newell want that information and it couldn't be disclosed to him?
That's
So
correct.
we need a few more laws to keep us all straight.
Oh, goody.
It was the birthday,
I mean,
it was a security.
Yeah.
Certainly being sarcastic.
I will double check, but I believe when I asked her about that, she said that she keeps a list without that if people request the street list. A list without birth dates.
Straight street list.
Right, and I think the issue was, council said to get them off there, so I don't know where lists with birth dates. I mean, if the town doesn't have them, the town can't be held responsible for divulging the information.
Right, but in some cases, the town does need it, so.
Ages might be different than birth dates. That, yes,
That's what I'm checking.
recording ages would be
Yeah,
one thing, but
right.
precise birth dates the issue.
If I can ask, who's the source of the information? How do we get that? Is that census, US Census, or is it
For the street list?
for the ages? I don't ever remember saying how old I am or anything like that. I mean, where does that come from?
Well, the street list has your birth date. It
So
would be mapped.
where did they get it from?
Got it from you.
What's that?
Got it from you.
Do they,
Like when I signed up for voting or
they want to
something?
know how old you are, how old your kids are, how old the dog is?
I think Ruth Kraft always calls us, and I'm sure maybe it's just being Ruth, but I'm pretty sure she always asks our birthdays.
The reason I'm interested in this is because on this long-term, long-range planning committee for the schools, we're trying to get a sense of the distribution of ages through the county. And it's a real hard number to come up with. I'm not interested in individual towns, but I want to know what's the distribution of 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12 years old. And then you got this big slug of people coming who are the baby boomers, you know, but because it plays directly into the requirements on the vacancy of the school. So I am really, really interested in knowing where that comes from and if it's digitally available and if I can request it. So, you know, I don't want to go to each town. That'd be very painful. But if at county there was something, that'd be great.
We had to get it through the towns.
I
Through
can't.
the individual towns.
Yeah, I would have to believe that there's a place where the state would that would get reported to the state.
Census data was, anyways.
So maybe to use the school resources, we have to send all those aging people back to school and use up some of that space, huh? They've been talking on the radio about sharing a superintendent.
Yeah.
Didn't know the papers. Or even trying to keep the one we've got. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 10:02. About an hour earlier than I thought we'd be tonight.